So I'm going to go over the transition and actually a few different ways you can do it, or a few different things you can use in it. Um, One of the things is using just the F minor chord right before that diminished climb. So instead of sliding up the octave, just doing, and then you're kind of going right into the F sharp of that diminished chord. So first I'm going to go over some of the parts leading up to the transition. Um, Back during the instrumental part for Help on the Way, we have this part, and then it goes back to the F minor, C minor part of the verse. So that instrumental part will end after like 1/3 of that F minor C part. So after the first. So that'll be followed by the other 2/3 of the verse where the lyrics come in, and then that leads right up to the transition, where the rhythm guitar uses usually an F minor 9, like we were using for most of the song. Just an up-down stroke, or down-up, sorry. Sometimes you might want to slide it back. So after that, you use an octave, an F octave, you slide into it, downstroke, and then come back up and do a quick up down, down, up down. Then it's going to go up to a C octave, and you're going to get that with an upstroke. So after that first, you're going to do a dead downstroke, like that. And then when you come back up, you're going to get that C octave. Then you're going to get the F octave again on an upstroke. So after that C octave, you're going to go back down, come back up, go back down, and get the F octave. So depending on what version or year you're listening to, you might hear a few things a little different. Sometimes it sounds like you might be getting more strokes in on that first F octave. Sometimes it sounds like he's going maybe up to the G, doing something like this. Or maybe this. So they'll do this whole thing like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And on the very last one, there will be this one little extra slide up to F for the rhythm. I mentioned a variation for this is just to use the F minor chord. So you can either go or down, down, up, down, down, up. If you do it up here, you're going to slide into the F sharp right after. So again, that's part of this F sharp diminished chord, or C diminished, or A diminished, or E flat diminished. If you're up here, you're going to slide just half step up to just the F sharp. So from there, you're going to go to that diminished chord with your middle finger on the A string, 6th fret, 3rd finger, 7th fret of the D, 1st finger, 5th fret of the G, and pinky, 7th fret of the B. Then we're going to move it up, so your middle finger is on the 9th fret, same shape, 9th fret of the A string, then up again to the 12th fret of the A string. And then the band goes to a G minor. This is what the rhythm guitar is doing. Down, down, up, down, down, up. You can throw an octave in there after that, just hit like a D. Down, down, up, down, down, up. Instead of the octave, you could just do all 4. And then the same thing. Slide after the last one. Slide up to the G sharp from that G on the D string. And again, that's part of this G sharp diminished. So same shape, different position. You're going to go from there. So your middle finger is on the 8th fret of the A string, then the 11th fret of the A string, and then the 14th fret. And for this one, if you can get like an up down in, that's kind of the way to go. Now after that, Weir uses octaves to hit notes in the chords that Jerry is doing arpeggios over. So those chords are E minor, B minor, F sharp minor, A minor, E minor, or G, D, C, then E minor or G. So what he's doing is taking notes that are in each of those chords. So a lot of times he starts with a B octave. The first chord's E minor, so B is the 5th of E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. B is the 5th of E minor. So you can do like a, or a. Then for the next chord, B minor, he goes up to the D octave. So B minor, the D is the minor 3rd. So if you have a B chord, this C sharp or D sharp right here is the major 3rd. If you flatten it, the D is the minor 3rd. So he goes 5th, minor 3rd. Those are usually the two that start it off. There's a few different variations you can do from here that I've heard. Some of the earlier versions, 75, 76, sounds like he's descending from there, going to C sharp, which is the 5th of the F sharp minor chord we're on, and then another half step down to C, which is the minor 3rd of the A minor chord we're on, then to B, which if we're on E minor, that's the 5th again, or it's the major 3rd of G. Then back to C sharp minor, and back to C, back to B. So that's and then it lands on an A minor. And a lot of times there's this little hammer on from the 9th, 10th fret of the D string, or I've also heard it from the 7th to 9th fret. So the variation I did in the beginning is actually a little different. Goes from the B to the D, so the 5th and the minor 3rd, and then the A, which is the minor 3rd of the F sharp chord we're on, and then the C, the minor 3rd of the A minor chord that we're on, then the G, which we're either in G or E minor, depending on how you look at it. Then F sharp, which is the major third of the D chord we're on. Then E, the major third of the C chord that we're on. Then D, the fifth of the G chord that we're on. Then landing on A minor. So altogether that's for the first four I did like a down up, dead downstroke, then got it on the up. For the last ones I did down up, down up, down up, down up. For those last few chords, I've also heard them just hit the octave that's being used. So after the go to E, D, C, B, and then A minor. I've also heard them just descend the whole way, go B, D, C sharp, C, B, B flat, A, then maybe go a half step to G. Could have been a mistake, but I'm pretty sure I've heard the last one be on the A flat too. So going but if I were going to use that one, I would go skip that G flat and go right from the A to the G. Lately, in like Rat Dog and further stuff, I've heard Bob not hit the octave for every one, but kind of just use the E and F sharp when they apply. So he might hit the E right away, skip the B, hit the F sharp, skip the A, then when it goes back to the E minor or G, hit the E again, then it goes to the D, hits the F sharp again, goes to the C, hits the E again, maybe hits the D for the last one or just leaves it alone until the A minor comes. So now we're in Slipknot in A minor, and while the lead guitar is doing the rhythm guitar does this, or at least this is what Bob does most of the time. So you're hammering on from the 7th to the 10th fret of the A string, then hammer on from the 7th to the 9th fret of the D, then do the same thing, but when you get to the D string, do a pull off from the 9th to the 7th. Then go up to the low E, 7th to 10th, hammer on, same thing. Then a pull off from the 9th to 7th of the A string. May have also heard this with 2 hammer-ons in the beginning, or 2 pull-offs. If you want, you can also add a little octave in there. Little up, down, up, A octave. So the Slipknot jam is in A minor. I'm going to talk a little bit about what you can play during that jam. First, I'm going to discuss the transition out of Slipknot and then into Franklin's Tower or wherever. So it goes back to that lick that the lead guitar does, and the rhythm guitar does that same lick. Then we go right to the G sharp diminished this time. Sometimes it'll go back to the lick again in A. Then go back to the G sharp diminished climb. And then it'll go to an A sharp diminished climb. And then it'll go back to the same transition we did before, using the octaves. And then this time, instead of just landing on A minor, it'll go A, G, and then C sharp minor, B minor, A. So you might go from the end of Slipknot right into the G sharp diminished, then the A sharp diminished climbs, or you might go to the G sharp diminished, back to the Slipknot lick, and then do the G sharp and A sharp diminished climbs. In some versions in the 80s, it sounds like they use the A sharp diminished climb actually coming out of Help Not, coming out of Help on the Way into Slipknot. So instead of just you might hear so for the A sharp diminished climb, same kind of idea. Hit the A sharp note, go up, so your middle finger is on the 10th fret of the A string, using that same diminished shape. 13th fret of the A string, and then the 17th fret. So in the Slipknot jam in A minor, you could add the 9, add a B note. A lot of the times the Dorian scale is being used, which means this F sharp note you can use. Octaves are always good. So that F sharp octave, G octave, A octave, you can use all those. Since it's Dorian, you can actually use like a B minor voicing. Add the C and the G in there. Also heard the flat 5 in here. So that E flat note. As the jam's building up, they kind of tend to go into this part. It climbs up like that. Looks like the rhythm might be doing something like this. Maybe hitting the B and the E note on the A and G strings. Then getting kind of like a G sharp 7 chord in there. Mainly you want to emphasize that C note though. Then we go to a D octave, an E octave, then can kind of slide up from an F sharp to a G. That's just one possibility of what you can do. The main point is to climb, to provide some rhythm, but create voicings that help the music build. Also think I might have heard something like this. And after it builds up, they'll go to D. Let that ring out for a bar, and then back to A. Then it goes back to the main lick in A, and then we do our big transition that I just went over. So none of this is set in stone. These are all just ideas I picked up in different variations from different shows and stuff like that. You can combine any parts and put them together in any way you want. Primarily, I just encourage you to listen to get ideas, and you can use those ideas as kind of vocabulary and ultimately make them your own.